What's going on, guys? J3 here. The shiny new cool DPS has finally released for Endwalker, Reaper. If you're looking for fast, good DPS, and great utility for the raid, this is the job for you. Today we'll be going over all the skills, the opener, and at the end, my thoughts about this class. Alright, let's get right on to it. So to my bottom right, the top bar will be called the Soul Gauge. The bottom bar will be blue when filled up, is called the Shroud Gauge. And then on this very top is called the Death Gauge. I know there's a lot of gauges, but I'm gonna try to break it down as much as I can so you'll understand. Pretty much each of these gauges lets you utilize specific skills. The basic rule of thumb, if either the Shroud, which is the bottom, or your Soul, the top gauge, is at 50 or 100, you should be using them on certain skills. The first thing that I want to mention and stress this is that it's very important to Reapers to keep their Death Design debuff. Death Design debuff lets you do more damage as time goes on. And if it isn't up, you're going to be losing out on it. And it's really easy to maintain. To get Death's Design, with a single target, you can use a skill called Shadow of Death, and then your AOE ability, or if there's multiple targets, it's Wall of Death. Familiarize yourself with these two skills because you're going to want to you want to keep this up 100% of the time. Make sure it's always up because everyone wants to do more damage. You can stack this up to 60 seconds. So initial hit 30, as you can see at the top. And then if you do it again, it adds another 30, going up to a minute maximum. Now next we'll be covering the two moves that you can do when you're not in combat. So let's get out of combat. Harp. This will be your long range move. If you can't stay in melee range, you'll be casting this. And you also want to do this pre-pull. So pre-pull as in if they're doing countdown for some raids, you want to do this around the 2-second mark. And then you can start running up. The other move is Solso. Are we pronouncing this wrong? It'll be instant when you're out of combat, so this pretty much gives you a move called Harvest Moon. And Harvest Moon can be done from far away as well. It will look like this. And then once you're in combat, it will not be instant anymore. So when the boss is doing a phase change and you can't target anything or hit anything, it will look like this. And then you can cast it again. I only recommend doing Harvest Moon when you're out of melee range. Most of the time you're going to be doing your combos. So think of it as another long range move, but rather than Harp, you can use Harvest Moon. It takes 5 seconds to cast. Then when there's a raid wipe coming up or AOE from the boss, you have a skill called Arcane Crest. So this pretty much gives you a shield, and then once broken, it will heal up your allies that are 15 yalms from you. It'll look like this. So the only requirement is you have to make sure you do it 1 to 2 seconds before they finish the cast, because if you do it right when they're about to finish, it will not register due to server ticks. So you have to be careful. Try to pop it as early as you can when you know that they're gonna hit you. Arcane Crest is very helpful for healers to mitigate your damage and to heal others. Everyone loves a team player, alright? Now for your dashes. These dashes are pretty unique for the Reaper. I actually started liking it as I kept using it, but the only problem is understanding the distance, and it'll look like this. So your dash in ability is called Hell's Ingress. And to go back to that location, you have to do Regress to put you back. This is a fixed location, and you don't have to target an enemy or a teammate. So this makes the Reaper's dashes very versatile. And then Hell's Egress makes you dash backwards, and then Regress to dash back in. So to dash in and out of combat is very, very good. The recast is a little long, but most of the time you want to stay in melee range anyway. You want to stray too far away from the target because auto attacks do a good amount of your damage. And then if you've noticed, if you do either one of these egresses, the dashes, Harp will be highlighted and pretty much makes your Harp insta-cast. So pretty much you want to pop Harp if you can, and then when you need to go back in, then you would regress. But Harp pretty much makes up for the damage loss if you're away from the boss. But if you dash in to a target, just do your auto attack moves rather than doing the Harp move. Now we'll be going over the single target combos the Reaper has. So most of the time, this is how it's going to look like. Your basic 1-2-3 combo will be Slice, Waxing Slice, and then Infernal Slice. Each skill generates 10 soul gauge, which is, don't forget, is the red gauge on the top. You're going to be doing this combo most of the time as filler if you don't have the other skills that I will mention, especially if you don't have 50 soul gauge or even 50 shroud gauge. You're going to be spamming this 1-2-3 combo most of the time. Your single target skill that grants 50 gauge soul gauge instantly is called Soul Slice. Soul Slice is really important to help you start ramping up your rotation, and once you get 50 soul gauge, you'll be able to do a move called Blood Stalk. Summon an avatar, pretty cool. And then you will see either Gibbet or Gallows available to you due to your Soul Reaver stack. So first we're going to go over Gibbet. And Gibbet must be done from the flank. You will notice that you get a buff up to the top, so this just means your other move, which we'll go over right now, Gallows, will have increased potency into their move, and this has to be done at the rear. The skill that we just used, Bloodstock, is no longer Bloodstock. It is now Unveiled Gallows, and the other one is Unveiled Gibbet. So this means it just enhances the next move of get your Gallows or your Gibbet. To make it easy, just do whatever skill is highlighted and those will be buffed. Gibbet and Gallows both generate 10 Enshroud gauge each. So to make it simple, once you get 50 soul gauge, you're going to want to do Bloodstock or the Unveiled Gibbet or Gallows. And then whatever is highlighted, Gibbet flank, Gallows rear. Now another skill other than Bloodstock that you can use that's very important in our rotation is Gluttony. This can only be executed when you have 50 soul gauge, and it'll look like this. It does AOE, so even though it does AOE, you want to do this for single target fights too, because it's the only skill that grants you 2 stacks of Soul Reaver. Now that we have the 2 stacks of Soul Reaver, we can now do Gallows and or Gibbet back to back. So that means you get an easy 20 Shroud gauge. If you do any other move, let's say that Gallows is available, you see how it's highlighted down low? If I do either Shadow of Death or any of the original combos I'm spamming, it gets cancelled. So that means you lose out on DPS. This is very important. If you have Gibbet or Gallows up, you have to do them first before anything else, because you don't want to lose out on that damage. We'll be covering Arcane Circle. I know it's a long text, but this is one of your best moves for you and the party. So this increases the damage of you and your party by 3%, and if they do any type of spell or skill, it grants you Immortal Sacrifice. It'll look like this. And then let's say I keep continuing doing my skills. And then once you get enough souls, you'll be able to cast a skill called Plentiful Harvest. This is a line AoE in front of you and grants 50 Enshroud gauge, as you see on the right. This skill is very important as well and can only be executed after you use Arcane Circle. So you have to pay attention to the skill before it goes away, because this is the only skill that gives us 50 Enshroud gauge. I'll be showing you guys why the Shroud gauge is so important. Once you get 50 Shroud gauge, you will have access to a skill called Enshroud. You will look like this. Probably one of the coolest transformations in this game. And it's not all just for show. During this form, you'll be doing really fast abilities back to back. During Enshroud, your abilities will only be 1.5 seconds cast time. So this means that the class is going to get a lot faster, and trust me, it's really fun to do. As you can see, it will be replacing your Gallows, your Gibbet, and your Bloodstock. So we'll be going all the skills right now in Enshroud. So let me go back in Enshroud. It will be the same positionals, so whatever your Gallows was, it will be cross reaping, so it will always be in the rear. Your Void Reaping will be changed from Gibbet and will always be on the flank. The Bloodstock changed to the Mirror's Slice, and you can do this anywhere. As you can see on the right, you get purple orbs. Those purple orbs let us do the Mirror's Slice. It's the only way we can get the Mirror's Slice and generate an orb called Void Shroud. I know this is a lot to take in, there's a lot of terms, but to keep it simple, let me get my Enshroud again. So I will go Enshroud, and then let's say I start Gibbet or Void Reaping first, into Cross Reaping in the back, and then my Lemur slices up because of these two purple orbs on the right. And now I just go to whatever's highlighted. So Void Reaping is flank, Cross Reaping is rear. Don't forget to do the Mirror Slice, and then for the very last orb, you want to do Communio, and it does 1000 damage, and it definitely looks the coolest. You will be doing this even in your AOE rotation for the very last orb. Ooh, okay. Now, let's get into the AOE rotation. The AOE rotation, you want to open up with World Death, like I showed you earlier, so get that debuff. I put it as much people as you can. And then your basic 1-2 combo, and that generates 10 souls each, is first, Spinning Scythe. Nightmare Scythe. And it'll be generating 10 souls each. Your instant cleave that gives instant 50 soul gauge cleave you have is called Soul Scythe. Again, you want to try to do Gluttony if you can. Only if it's up, you want to keep this on cooldown. And this will also give you 2 Soul Reavers again. And then you'll be able to cast a skill called Guillotine. This will be what's going to help you get that Shroud gauge. Make sure you use both of them. If Gluttony isn't up, I'm going to be using a skill called Grim Swath. Swath? And this can be executed once you have 50 soul gauge, which is the top. Don't forget, you want to do Guillotine right after, if it's up, because if you do like the single target rotation, if you do anything else after, it will get cancelled. Now, let me show you how the AoE rotation looks with Enshroud. Your Guillotine will change to Grim Reaping. You're gonna do this twice until you get Lemir's Scythe. Once you get 2 Void Shrouds, which is the purple orbs again. Do that when it's up. Do 2 more. Then we're Scythe into Communio. Last orb, rule of thumb, will always be Communio. Now, there are 2 openers right now, but for this guide I will only be covering what Balance considers the early Gluttony opener. You'll be using this opener most of the time, mainly because you want Gluttony to be on cooldown. If you wish to see the other opener, please let me know in the comments below. Please check the Balance Discord as they have helped me. What seemed like it could be the opener for now, but this could change in future, especially with changes with the class. So after the opener, things you want to prioritize is having Arcane Circle for damage up on cooldown and Gluttony, so you can do second most damaging skills. Gluttony will be used for double Gibbet for Gallows, or 2 Guillotines for more Shroud gauge. Using Plentiful Harvest before it falls off after Arcane Circle, so you can get more Enshroud. Enshroud means more fun and more damage, since Enshroud gives you access to that power, especially Communio. Always keep Death Design up from either your Shadow of Death or your World of Death for more damage. Soul Slice or Soul Scythe to give you instant soul gauge if they are up, and then go crazy in Enshroud whenever you can. So far, I'm having a lot of fun on this class, especially when you get the Enshroud form, when the casts become 1.5 and you get that off global. Oh man, it's the burst for this class. You can it really does feel like a burst. I plan to play this more because this has really good DPS while providing damage up and heals for the team. I'm used to playing Samurai, but I kind of want to try this class a little more, especially when Savage comes out. I want to try to push my limits and see how well this does in that kind of content. I want to thank Balance Discord again. I'll put it in the description below. Subscribe for more guides. I'll be making more in the future. Sage will be next, and then eventually the Samurai. Hope you guys find this guide helpful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.